Totally monastic.
Well,
I was a monk for 30 years. When I stopped being a monk, it wasn't because of some crisis with my faith in Buddhism or because I didn't want to spend my time in intensive practice. It's not like I fell in love and wanted to get married and start a family or something like that. It was just circumstances led me to the conclusion it was more honest and more comfortable not to be wearing the monastic robes anymore. But in terms of my personal life, to be honest, not much has changed. It's quite astonishing, really. I'm surprised myself in some ways. I spend most of my day, every day, whenever I can, wherever I can, in silence and solitude. I have my feeling is a day not spent in silence and solitude is a day wasted. To some extent.
But you have to teach.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not rigid about it. It's just that I suppose I've always had this, ever since I can remember, I've had this desire to live alone and be like a solitary meditator or a hermit or a yogi, as we see in the case of some of the great Tibetan practitioners. So this idea of being alone and spending a lot of time in silence and meditation, it was the main part of my life as a monk, and it's the main part of my life now that I'm a lay person. But it doesn't preclude me being engaged with people, and I do spend some time each year teaching in Buddhist centers in Nepal and India, and in the past in Australia and other places as well. So it's not that I live my life like a solitary hermit or recluse. But on a day-by-day basis, I don't engage with people socially very much. I come to the dining room and maybe talk to people if they want to talk to me, and I'm always happy to discuss with people about Buddhism and religion and spirituality. Mm-hmm. And I have friends here in Nepal. When I usually walk to Bodhanath, a few kilometers from here each afternoon, and do some circumambulation of the stupa. That's my exercise, physical exercise and mental exercise to some extent. And I have friends down there. I sometimes meet them for a cup of tea, but never for long, and never too much. And I teach a little bit, and I engage with people to some extent. But I'm still very much a solitary person. So I usually get up about 3 o'clock each morning and spend a couple of hours doing meditation and prayer. And then after breakfast, I'll maybe just, do some reading or check my email or surf the internet, read some newspapers online. Relax, a bit more meditation. It depends. When I'm in Australia, more and more I spend time with my elderly father. Mm-hmm. So when I'm there, I live with him. Sometimes we go out together, sometimes I cook for him, sometimes I go shopping for him, It really depends where I am. But even there, I still live a pretty monastic lifestyle. My relationship with my spiritual teacher is, if I can't make a decision for myself because I'm not sure what the right thing to do is, I ask him for advice. Is it good to go back to India and Nepal next year and do some teaching, or should I just stay in Australia and meditate? For example, that's a question that's been asked in the past. And sometimes the answer comes, very good to go back to India. Or as it happened not so long ago, the answer was better not to teach next year, just stay in solitude next year. Mm-hmm. So when I'm not sure about what I want to do, I will request for advice. And then once I've made a decision about what I'm doing, I usually just send a note to my teacher saying, well, this is what I'm planning to do for the next year or so. And that, if I don't hear back from him, then I assume that there's no problem with that, and I should just go ahead and do that. But it gives him the option to then write back and say, well, maybe it's better if you do this or go here and do that, like that. So, mm-hmm. I have this of course, this ongoing relationship, but it's not like I spend a lot of time in physical proximity to him. Well, he's just been in Russia, and I think now he might be in the Netherlands. I'm not sure, and then maybe going to Denmark and Sweden, and something like that. Northern Europe at the moment. So it's not like I ask him about every single thing. Oh, can I go here and do this? I've been around for long enough. I know my own mind. I've got my practice. He's given me specific advice over the years on what practices to do. So basically, it's just a question of doing them. Sometimes more intensively than others, and sometimes in a more solitary environment than others. So yeah, daily life, it's pretty relaxed because I'm fortunate in that I don't have to work for a living. As when I say I'm very monastic, I don't own anything. I don't own a house. I don't own a car. I've got no property. I've got, basically homeless and possessionless. I do have a home to go to. I always go back to my father's house when I'm in Australia. And in India and Nepal, I either stay here at Kopan monastery or in a small village in North India called Dharmkot and do some teaching at a Buddhist center there. So in a way, when I'm teaching, I in a sense, you could say I earn my livelihood as a teacher of Buddhist philosophy. But when I'm not teaching, then I either live with my father in Australia. I have no expenses there because he covers all the costs. And then he also gives me some money each month. So if I'm not teaching here, I have enough to support myself. So in that sense, I don't have the obligation. I have no wife or child or girlfriend or material entanglements. So I don't have any great responsibility. So I can still live on a very, very small amount of money each month. And that's what I mean when I say my life is very monastic. And really, it's true in terms of course, because the clothes have changed, it changes the way in which I relate to people and engage with the world, and it's certainly changed the way I relate to myself. I find I'm much more relaxed now, as not having to wear the robes. But truly, in my life, it's the same. And I say to many people, I might become a monk again later on. I mean, it's not that I have some great, disillusionment with monasticism. I think monasticism's a beautiful way to live. I think always keep an open mind. That's the most important thing. I think to some extent spiritual tourism isn't necessarily a bad thing because you explore different traditions with an open mind and with even some skepticism. I think skepticism is quite useful. But it's by exploring different traditions. We might go to different meditation centers, and even within Buddhism there are so many different lineages and traditions and methods. Listen to one's heart and listen to one's inner wisdom. And explore, read, talk to other people. And especially in this day and age, I have to say, there are a lot of very controversial, I use the word spiritual traditions, a little bit loosely. There's a lot of strange things going on in the world of spirituality and gurus and even lamas, to be honest. There are those who are totally authentic and genuine, and there's many very highly qualified spiritual masters in the world, and many totally authentic spiritual traditions. But even within the realm of Buddhism and Tibetan Buddhism, there's some really not very nice things going on. I'm sad to say, but that's the world we live in. And so I would just advise people to be extremely careful, and you start taking teachings in a tradition or a Buddhist center or any other center with a lama or a guru or a teacher, Google very carefully. And just check, because those traditions that are a little bit dubious or where there's been misbehavior on the part of teachers or students or expectation, or where there's a hidden agenda, you can usually find that out if one does some research. And I think in this day and age, one needs to be extra careful because, there is in a sense an explosion of interest in spirituality. which makes it a perfect environment for fake lamas and fake gurus and wrong ideas and wrong traditions. And I think some people are being exploited and misled and indeed abused in terribly destructive ways. So we just need to, as I say, I think the main point, use one's own wisdom, one's intelligence, and check very, very, very carefully the tradition, the lineage, the lamas or the gurus, and you know, if there are scandals or you know, dishonest things going on, and sometimes there are. You must be careful.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Nice talking to you. I hope it's of some benefit.
Yeah, not for others.
I hope so too. I hope so too.